let's work on a little bit of ear training here, and this won't matter what instrument that you play. If you do have an instrument nearby, you're welcome to pick it up and use it as a reference. But I would also challenge you to maybe do this first part with just your ears. We're going to listen through to about a minute of a song from the Bluegrass Album Band. And I'll pause here and there to just kind of challenge you to do a couple things. But ultimately, we want to try to, even without an instrument maybe, figure out what the chord progression is to this song, or at least have an idea of kind of where it's going. So I'm going to play just a little bit, and then and just challenge us with a couple things. All right, so listen up. If you do have headphones, it's probably helpful to hear. One of the big cues that I use to just listen to chord progressions when I hear a song is what the bass is doing, because the bass is usually telling the story more clearly. They can sometimes trick you, but they're usually doing that. So if you can't hear the bass in this broadcast, then it may make it a little bit more difficult. But anyway, here we go. Okay, so just pausing right quick. Even if we don't know what key the song is in, and you can't see what's going on, we should probably be able to identify what the tonic note is in the song. And that's very important. What do I mean by the tonic? I mean the root note of the key. Okay, we ought to be able to kind of hum that. Now, most every song ends in the melody of the chorus. Almost everyone will end on that tonic note. It's very rare that we have a song that ends on a different note, because it sounds unresolved if you don't land on that root most of the time. So even here in the fiddle intro, the fiddle is even going to end their solo centered around that tonic note. And when Tony comes in to sing, he's going to start singing that tonic note. So what I want you to challenge you to do, we're going to listen to the intro again, and I want to see if you can just hum and keep humming. Your mic is muted. What that tonic note is. And I'm going to stop the music again, and now I'm going to hum it. And let's see if we're on the same note, okay? Let's try it again. Did you get it? Okay, so when I'm listening to a song and I'm wanting to identify what that progression is, and this is whether I have an instrument in my hand or not. Of course, it makes it easier when you're jamming with people and you can see what chords they're playing. But I'm talking about just playing maybe a song that you've heard before, you're trying to play along with radio or whatever. I like to identify that tonic, because then, assuming that it's like most songs and it's in a major key, we've got some usual characters of chords that are often played in a certain key. So which ones are those? Well, the tonic, that would be called the 1. And then most often we have the 4 and the 5 as majors, the 4 and the 5 major. Very often we have what's called the 6 minor. That's also called the relative minor. It's the most common minor that we have. And then a 2 minor is very common. And then I'm going to go over my iPad right quick. In bluegrass, we get a lot of what's called the flat 7. So let's take a key that we're used to looking at. Let's say that the song is in the key of G. So that's going to be our root or our tonic. And as we think about the G major scale, A, B, C, excuse the writing, the penmanship, F sharp, G. So here's our 1, and then we talked about the 4 and the 5, and doesn't that make sense? Then in the key of G, you most often play a G, C, and D. And then we most often will play, if there's a minor, it's usually a 6 minor, which is E minor. A lot of times there's a 2 minor, which would be your A minor. And then I mentioned the dominant 7, or the flat 7. So this F sharp here, that's what's called the major 7th. So our flat 7 is going to be actually this chord right here that's technically not part of the diatonic chords in the key of G, but it's just used all the time, and that's going to be an F. So in the key of G, these are the usual characters. 1, 4, 5, sorry, and then 6 minor, 2 minor, and then that. I would say that 95% of bluegrass songs are going to be made up of the 1, 4, 5, 2 minor, 6 minor, and the flat 7. And then you've got songs like Old Home Place and such that have like a 3 major. You've got some 6 majors here and there, but that's primarily it. So I'm thinking about my scale and I'm kind of numbering them according to their scale tone. Okay? So this is helpful because if I can identify my tonic when I'm listening to a song, I can kind of sing up the scale and figure out which chord they're going to. Okay, so this is something that we should be able to do as musicians, is be able to sing up a major scale. You can hum along with me if you want. Your voice will be no worse than mine. But if this is a G, do, 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 do. Okay, we all, after we've been playing for a while, we recognize that major scale pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. I can also sing it backwards. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And so if I identify that tonic in my mind, boom, and then I'm hearing that bass going boom, 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 and it climbs up to something, well, I can just quickly in my mind just kind of sing up the scale. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, they just went to the 4. That's what chord we're on. Or a lot of times you'll hear something like this. All right, we've all heard that. We'll hear that in this song here. What's going on there? I'm hearing that. There's the root, and then they go. So it went down. Da, 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 1, 7, 6. Oh, that's a 6 minor. That's an E minor in the key of G. Does that make sense? And after a while of ear training, which is what we're doing tonight, you won't have to sing up and down that scale because you'll start to be able to do what I was working on with Ellie Mae today and just begin kind of hearing intervals and just knowing that boom, boom, that's 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 1 to 1, 1 to 6, 1 to 5, 1 to 4. Okay? There's even, there's some tricks you can use to even memorize all those intervals, like common songs that we always sing. Here comes the bride, that's 1, 4 for 4. Happy birthday, that's 1, 1, 2, 1. All right, twinkle, twinkle, that's 1, 1, 5, 5. Okay, and so I'm listening to the bass and I'm listening to some of the other instruments too to maybe help me try to learn some of those chords. So what we're going to do, we're going to listen now to Tony sing the verse and the chorus, and they're 2 different chord progressions. It goes to a very interesting chord, just hint, very interesting chord in the chorus that we didn't cover on the iPad as being one of the usual suspects. And you might not know what it is, but you might just hear it and be like, that doesn't sound normal. That sounds a little colorful for what I usually hear. But don't worry about writing it down right now. I just want you to listen critically as we were talking about, and just try to hear that bass and what the other instruments are doing.
I've been up and down and around and round and back again. I've been so many places I can't remember where or when.